Winter Pastimes by Stephen Leacock, published in 1902. It is in the depth of winter, when the intense cold renders it desirable to stay at home, that the really pleasant family is wont to serve invitations upon a few friends to spend a quiet evening. It is at these gatherings that gay thing, the indoor winter game, becomes rampant. It is there that the old euchre deck and the staring domino become fair and beautiful things. That the rattle of the lotto counter rejoices the heart, that the old riddle feels the sap stirring in its limbs again, and the amusing spillikin completes the mental ruin of the jaded guest. Then does the jolly maiden aunt propound the query, what is the difference between an elephant and a silk hat? Or declare that her first is a vowel, her second a preposition, and her third an archipelago. It is to crown such a quiet evening, and to give the finishing stroke to those of the visitors who have not escaped early, with the fierce purpose of getting at the saloons before they have time to close, that the indoor game or family reservoir of fun is dragged from its long sleep. It is spread out upon the table. Its paper of directions is unfolded. Its cards, its counters, its pointers, and its markers are distributed around the table, and the visitor forces a look of reckless pleasure upon his face. Then the few simple directions are read aloud by the jolly aunt, instructing each player to challenge the player holding the golden letter corresponding to the digit next in order to name a dead author beginning with X, failing which the player must declare himself in fault and pay the forfeit of handing over to the jolly aunt his gold watch and all his money, or having a hot plate down his neck. With a view to bringing some relief to the guests at entertainments of this kind, I have endeavored to construct one or two little winter pastimes of a novel character. They are quite inexpensive, and they need no background of higher arithmetic or ancient history. They are within reach of the humblest intellect. Here is one of them. It is called indoor football, or football without a ball. In this game, any number of players, from 15 to 30, seat themselves in a heap on any one player, usually the player next to the dealer. They then challenge him to get up, while one player stands with a stopwatch in his hand and counts 40 seconds. Should the first player fail to rise before 40 seconds are counted, the player with the watch declares him suffocated. This is called a down and counts 1. The player who was the down is then leant against the wall. His wind is supposed to be squeezed out. The player called the referee then blows a whistle, and the players select another player and score a down off him. While the player is supposed to be down, all the rest must remain seated as before and not rise from him until the referee, by counting 40 and blowing his whistle, announces that, in his opinion, the other player is stifled. He is then leant against the wall beside the first player. When the whistle again blows, the player nearest the referee strikes him behind the ear. This is a touch and counts 2. It is impossible, of course, to give all the rules in detail. I might add, however, that while it counts 2 to strike a referee, to kick him counts 3, to break his arm or leg counts 4, and to kill him outright is called a grand slam and counts 1 game. Here is another little thing that I have worked out, which is superior to parlor games, in that it combines their intense excitement with out-of-door exercise. It is easily comprehended, and can be played by any number of players, old and young. It requires no other apparatus than a trolley car of the ordinary type, a mile or 2 of track, and a few thousand volts of electricity. It is called the Suburban Trolley Car, a holiday game for old and young. The chief part in the game is taken by 2 players, who station themselves one at each end of the car, and who adopt some distinctive costumes to indicate that they are it. The other players occupy the body of the car or take up their position at intervals along the track. The object of each player should be to enter the car as stealthily as possible, in such a way as to escape the notice of the players in distinctive dress. Should he fail to do this, he must pay the philopena or forfeit, and philopena number 2 being thrown off the car by the neck. Each player may elect which philopena he will pay. Any player who escapes paying the philopena scores 1. The players who are in the car may elect to adopt a standing attitude or to seat themselves, but no player may seat himself in the lap of another without the second player's consent. The object of those who elect to remain standing is to place their feet upon the toes of those who sit. When they do this, they score. The object of those who elect to sit is to elude the feet of the standing players. Much merriment is thus occasioned. The player in distinctive costume at the front of the car controls a crank by means of which he is enabled to bring the car to a sudden stop or to cause it to plunge violently forward. His aim in so doing is to cause all the standing players to fall over backward. Every time he does this, he scores. For this purpose, he is generally in collusion with the other player in distinctive costume, whose business it is to let him know by a series of bells and signals when the players are not looking and can be easily thrown down. A sharp fall of this sort gives rise to no end of banter and good-natured drollery, directed against the two players who are it. Should a player who is thus thrown backward save himself from falling by sitting down in the lap of a female player, he scores 1. Any player who scores in this manner is entitled to remain seated while he may count 6, after which he must remove himself or pay philopena number 2. Should the player who controls the crank perceive a player upon the street desirous of joining in the game by entering the car, his object should be, primo, to run over him and to kill him; secundo, to kill him by any other means in his power; tertio, to let him into the car, but to exact the usual philopena. Should a player, in thus attempting to get on the car from without, become entangled in the machinery, the player controlling the crank shouts "huff," and the car is supposed to pass over him. All within the car score 1. A fine spice of the ludicrous may be added to the game, by each player pretending that he has a destination or stopping place, where he would wish to alight. It now becomes the aim of the two players who are it to carry him past his point. A player who is thus carried beyond his imaginary stopping place must feign a violent passion and imitate angry gesticulations. He may, in addition, feign a great age or painful infirmity, which will be found to occasion the most convulsive fun for the other players in the game. These are the main outlines of this most amusing pastime. Many other agreeable features may, of course, be readily introduced by persons of humor and imagination.